The Public Protector has slammed the Correctional Services Department in a recent report for its role in how it dealt with convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester's prison escape. The Public Protector undertook an investigation into the alleged improper conduct by officials with the department regarding Bester's escape from Mangaung Correctional Centre, as well as allegations of failure by former Deputy Minister of Correctional Services, that's Phathekile Holomisa, to intervene regarding that incident. Now, Bester, of course, you might remember, escaped back in May of 2022 after faking his own death. He was recaptured and arrested with his partner Doctor Nandipha Magudumana after fleeing to Tanzania. Let's make sense of that report. Bring in the Public Protector Spokesperson, Khulu, Phasiwe, who's with us in our studios here in Auckland Park. Great to see you again, sir. Thanks for popping by.
Thank you.
We know the Public Protector usually responds to complaints, inquiries, if you like. So perhaps let's start with much needed context. What was the kind of nexus question, if you like, that the Public Protector's Office was asking here as they conducted their investigation?
So generally, in terms of the mandate of the Public Protector, we are looking into the failures or misconduct, essentially, within state-owned agencies. So because the correctional services fall within that ambit, so based on the media reports and also the fact that there was also a complaint which was formally lodged with the Public Protector for the office to look into this matter, that's how we got involved into this particular matter.
And that report is being described as scathing, and that is in part because there are a number of lapses it seems it has been able to identify. Perhaps you can take us through that, because my understanding is that part of what the report has found is that the Department of Correctional Services could have sounded the alarm around Bester's escape way sooner than they did.
Very true, and and without hopefully being misunderstood on this, let's take an example of the national parks, for example. When they have an elephant or a tiger or whatever, tigers maybe not tigers, elephant or lions or other things like that, when they escape from their facilities, one of the standard operating procedures is for them to notify organizations like yourselves so that you can inform the public, so that we all know as to what we are dealing with. So in the same way, and without equating the prisoners with animals, in the same way, the standard operating procedures for correctional services is that they need to take care of the inmates. If one of them is missing or they can't immediately locate them, they immediately have to inform the police. They didn't do so. In fact, it took them about 6 days for them to start sort of looking around and informing the police as to the whereabouts of Mr. Bester, which was in clear violation of their own standard operating procedures.
And I'm sure you must have, in some ways, asked questions around why that is. What kind of responses were you getting?
Well, essentially, which was also a very big disappointment that we found, the officials of the correctional services were abdicating their responsibilities, essentially. They were saying the company which is running the facility is supposed to be the ones who are supposed to give them the answers. But from the way the system works is that the prisons in South Africa, even though this particular facility is a privately owned, but the prison facilities in South Africa, in terms of the law, they are responsible, or at least they are accounting to the Department of Correctional Services, and therefore, even if you are privately owned, you need to inform the department about what is going on in there. So the findings that the findings around this particular matter was that it was very disappointing that they tried to almost outsource their responsibility, even though in terms of the law, they needed to make sure that you have this contract, obviously, with this company G4S, and therefore from time to time, you need to get feedback from them as to what is going on in that facility, and that didn't happen.
You speak about abdicating responsibilities. There are two names that stick out in that report: Chris Mahonono and Rosalind Pasha. These individuals are mentioned. In fact, I think the report recommends some kind of disciplinary action. For people who aren't following the story as closely, help us kind of place their role in what should have taken place and why there was that recommendation.
So In terms of the recommendation, at least, the public protector indicated that because already the department had taken action against them, disciplinary action, so there's no need essentially for double jeopardy on this. So we will leave that to the department internally to deal with their own processes, but already we know as to the disciplinary action. But in relation to Mr. Mahonano, his role essentially there was supposed to be, I think he's the director who's responsible for the facility there. So the correctional service there reports to him, and he did not sort of make normal processes of getting information and also filtering that information to where it's supposed to go. For example, if there's an escape as it happened, it was part of his responsibilities to immediately phone the police and inform them about what has happened. And then as far as Ms. Phathekile is concerned, she's the one who was responsible for the contract that was entered with the G4S, and she also didn't really sort of essentially follow up on the contract and make sure that the company is doing what they were contracted to do.
As we learned about the story, I think many South Africans were completely aghast about the details of what possibly took place, especially when it came around this decoy that was used inside the prison. So it's now emerged, of course, that even though initially the story that was told is that Thabo Bester died in a fire, that wasn't the case. Another body had come in, presumably, allegedly. The courts are still, of course, dealing with all of that. But the point I'm trying to get to is that a forensic pathologist, this report has found, had actually realized that something was untoward at a very early stage. How did officials respond to that?
Yes, which is also another matter that the public protector is raising issues with. So on the 3rd of May, which is supposedly when in fact, that's a given reality that there was a fire and someone was found dead inside the cell, and I would say the immediate reaction was that because the person who was supposed to be there is Mr. Bester, and therefore that the conclusion was immediately that he had committed suicide, and therefore the normal processes of the police being informed and involved kicked in. However, on the 4th of May, a day after, the pathologists started doing their test, and they started realizing that something is amiss in this equation. So when someone is sort of in a closed environment, and especially if there's fire, there are certain signs that you will pick up when you do the investigation. And one of them would be that there will be smoke inhalation and all sorts of things like that. And in this particular instance, there was none of that. And this obviously comes to the point that ultimately that showed that the body was brought in from outside. And that's when this alarm was raised. So if things were supposed to go according to how they were meant to be, already from the 4th of May, the department should have started making serious investigations in there. But not even on the 4th of May or even the 5th, if maybe there was a delay. They only started doing their own investigations from the 9th of May, which was about 6 days after the actual event had happened.
Sure. I know there are also steps that the Public Protector has recommended to be taken in Parliament with the Correctional Services Portfolio Committee. Perhaps you can help us better understand that.
Yes. So the approach that the Public Protector is taking on this particular matter is, this is not only a Department of Correctional Services matter. Obviously, them as the owners of the facilities, yes, they are responsible. But the Speaker of Parliament also needs to take this matter up and raise it in that particular level, and also with the Portfolio Committee of the Correctional Services, to ensure that all the parties that are involved in Parliament discuss this matter, and also in the broader scheme of things to make sure that the recommendations of the Public Protector are implemented.
Yeah, and that's, I suppose, is a good place where we can round off our interview. We've spoken for years about whether or not the Public Protector has enough powers in order to see through the recommendation of or to see through the implementation of their own recommendations. I wonder whether, Khulu, you get a sense that in this particular instance, the country is able to stave off a repeat of something like this happening, especially in the absence of these recommendations being implemented right through, because South Africans have now come to learn that this was not only well orchestrated, it was planned, involves a number of people, and runs deep in the system.
In terms of the recommendations, we are happy to say that, broadly speaking, not only related to this particular matter, but generally speaking, we're beginning to see a change in attitudes from government departments and officials. So, you know, over the last few years, there was reluctance or
disregard.
Yes, essentially. And there was only about 0.5% of implementation of the recommendations of the remedial action. Right now, as I speak to you, that number has shot up to 29%, which is coming from a low base, but it's promising, at least from where we come from. So we are hopeful that because already the speaker and also the ministers have also made commitments to take these matters very seriously, that they will follow through and make sure that these matters are implemented. And also the fact that the department has also taken, I would say, disciplinary actions against the people who were found to be misbehaving. It's also beginning to show that some action is being done internally.
We certainly hope so, because one way or the other, somebody has died to see through this crime. At least that's what we understand so far. And at the very least, there should be justice for that person. And many others, of course, who've been affected. Khulu Phasiwe, thanks for popping by. We appreciate you speaking to us. Khulu Phasiwe, the spokesperson for the Public Protector's Office, as we make sense of that recent report looking into essentially the brazen escape by Thabo Bester and those who might have assisted him.